Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Off the Bench podcast. My name is Robert Sellers, and today we are breaking down the 12-team playoff bracket. And that's one thing we're doing. I'm not making game predictions quite yet. I'll do that more in depth later on as we go closer towards the playoffs when they start. But I'm going to say what I love about this bracket, what I don't like about this bracket, what I would tweak, what I would change, teams that have been left out, what I feel about that, what I feel about teams that are left in, and what, in my opinion, is the perfect way to do a bracket in a playoff format in the sport of college football. Because I feel like this is the main topic of conversation right now about college football. I hate that it is. I want to break down matchups. I want to talk about games. I want to talk about teams. But this is what we've got right now, which is a bracket. And first of all, can we just be happy and excited that we have ourselves a playoff bracket? I mean, here it is. It's beautiful. I myself am a big bracket fan. If you know me personally, one of the first things you know about me is that I love making brackets. I love looking at brackets. I love everything about brackets, and we've got ourselves a doozy of one. I think it looks very, very nice up here on the screen. I'm very excited for it to start, and there are some great things about it. First of all, there are a couple of amazing first-round matchups, and that being Alabama, Oklahoma, and Miami, Texas A&M. I'm really excited about both of these games. I know that the first round doesn't look all that spicy just because we have Oregon, James Madison, which is like a 21.5 point spread, and Ole Miss Tulane, I think, is about 17.5 point spread. And we've already seen that game before, and Ole Miss won by 35. But those two other games, Bama and Oklahoma, and Miami and Texas A&M, I think are going to be an absolute blast. I'm really excited to watch them. I think they're going to be a lot of fun, and it's great that we get to see these programs play each other in the playoffs. I know Bama and Oklahoma have already played, but round two, I think, is going to be really, really cool. It's going to be a great atmosphere in Norman and Friday night game, and I'm really glad that we got that matchup. And the thing that honestly excites me the most about this 12-team playoff is everything that has gone down these past couple years, with everything that has changed the sport of college football, all the arguing, all the trying to find ourselves the best format, and all the change. And yet, the number one team, the only undefeated team that's 13-0, that has the highest odds to win the national championship, are the Indiana Hoosiers, and they're going to play in the Rose Bowl. And I just think it's so awesome. This is my favorite story of the season. What Indiana has been able to do, and just looking at them and getting the one seed in the playoffs, and this is officially the playoff bracket. It just puts a smile on my face. So I love that. I think I agree with Ohio State not getting dropped down past Georgia due to only losing against Indiana, who I think is the best team in college football, and I think it's sort of a general consensus that they are. That being said, I do think it's ridiculous. And you know what? I'm not going to talk about what I think is ridiculous, and I'm going to be positive. I'm going to stay positive for as long as I can. I want to give a big shout out, congratulations to Texas Tech, having maybe their best regular season in program history, definitely their best regular season in program history, capping it off with the Big 12 championship. Good for them. I love that Ole Miss stayed at number 6 and didn't drop to number 7. A lot of people said they were going to because of Lane Kiffin leaving. They thought that Ole Miss was going to be a much worse team and should thus be dropped. I think that rationale is ridiculous. I think Ole Miss is a slightly worse team without Lane Kiffin, but we don't know what a non-Lane Kiffin Ole Miss looks like. So for us to drop Ole Miss based off a hypothetical and not base anything off of what they've done this season, I think is very childlike. But anyway, so I like Ole Miss not dropping, and I really love these potential second-round matchups that we have. I mean, just look at these potential games. Oregon playing Texas Tech would be amazing. I would love that matchup. Alabama or Oklahoma, either of them taking on Kurt Signetti. I mean, I've heard so many Alabama fans and Oklahoma fans that have said, I'm really glad that we have Indiana in the next round. I think Indiana is so vulnerable, man. I think that they haven't really played anybody over there in the Big Ten. They haven't been tested. I don't think they're quite as good of a team. They have 0 5-star recruits on that roster or 5-star transfers. I think that playing Indiana is a big bonus for us SEC teams because we are in the better conference. Indiana, that's a fraudulent number 1 overall team. Kurt Signetti, is going to mention something about that in the press conference, and both the teams that are playing that game are going to be fired up, playing for their conferences. I think that'll be electric. And Ole Miss Georgia rematch would be really cool. Honestly, I think Georgia would probably win by 20 plus points, but we'll see. We don't know. Pete Golding could turn that program into a defensive masterclass. We have no idea. And then Texas A&M or Miami taking on Ohio State would be phenomenal. We haven't seen that matchup. We haven't seen A&M play Ohio State since I don't know when. and Miami hasn't played Ohio State in a long time either. So both of those games would be great. And then even in the third round, we could get Indiana-Oregon rematch. We could get Indiana-Texas Tech. We could get Bama-Oregon, Bama-Tech, Oklahoma-Tech, Oklahoma-Oregon. I think all those matchups could be great. Even if Oklahoma plays Texas Tech, that's an old-fashioned Big 12 rematch. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it would be really cool. And then I think a Georgia versus Ohio State game would be so phenomenal. I would love that game. I can't even begin to think who I would pick to win it. I think that would just be such high-level football. And then who knows what the national championship is going to be. I mean, I could not tell you. I thought so much last year about who I thought was going to make it to the national championship, and I don't think I thought once that it was going to be Ohio State versus Notre Dame. So who knows? Anybody could make a run. Anybody could. That's the beauty of the 12-team playoffs. Who knows? Maybe Trinidad Chambliss heats up and makes it all the way to the national championship to face Dante Moore in Oregon. It could happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but it could. I mean, what if James Madison pulls off the upset over Oregon? I'm just saying, it's possible. That's why we play the games. Oregon and Ole Miss don't have byes. They have games to be played. I mean, it is still a football game. You best believe that James Madison and Tulane team are going to give their 110% in those games to try and win it. So that's all the good with this 12-team playoff bracket. I think it's going to be a really fun one for sure. But now let's talk about the bad. To me, the most glaring flaw in this 12-team playoff bracket when I look at it right now is the fact that the second round is at a neutral site venue. And listen, there's nothing wrong with the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl's awesome. There's nothing wrong with the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl and all of those big-time venues. They're great, and they're historic, and they're important for college football. But just imagine, can we just picture if we had the Oregon Ducks versus Texas Tech, not at a bowl game, not at a neutral site, but at Lubbock, on a college campus in AT&T Stadium? Like, that would be unreal. The atmosphere there would be off the chain. Or imagine the Alabama Crimson Tide traveling all the way to Indiana to take on the Indiana Hoosiers on that campus. Like, that would be amazing. We get to watch a rematch between Ole Miss and Georgia between the hedges. That would be really, really cool. And then the Shoe would always be electric for a big game. The Shoe doesn't get very many opportunities to play big-time night games because of Big Noon Kickoff, and I really don't like Big Noon Kickoff. It robs Ohio State of big night games. But who knows? If A&M played at Ohio State in the second round and they made that a night game, wow, that place would be jumping. It would be off the chain. So I really think that the thing that is so special about college football is the fact that it is college. If you want to watch football purely out of a love for the sport of football, and you want to watch football at its highest level and at its best coached and where it is the most entertaining and makes the most sense, go watch the NFL, because that is what the NFL is made for. And there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, it's beautiful. The NFL is a beautiful league. But the thing that makes college football so amazing is the college aspect of it. It's the different cultures of America clashing against each other in a sporting event. It's all the crazy college students that just go nuts at these games. It's the environments and the tailgating and the atmospheres leading up to the games. That's what makes college football so special. And I think you're completely just robbing college football fan bases of big-time home playoff games by just throwing the Orange Bowl on it and making it an Orange Bowl game. So if I were the college football playoff commissioner, if I could decide what I wanted to do, the first thing I would do is make the second round a on-campus game. That's what I would do. Also, the second thing I have major beef with this bracket, why on earth is James Madison and Oregon the primetime game? I think it doesn't make any sense. I'm sure it's because of some media rights deal or whatever. I'm sure that's the reason. But the fact that James Madison and Oregon is the night game, that's what we're watching on prime time, whereas Miami and Texas A&M are playing at 11 o'clock local time, that is ridiculous in my opinion. I mean, I've been to Kyle Field for an 11 o'clock game, a 2:30 game, and a night game. And I'm telling you, by far, the best environment there is a night game atmosphere. It is something that is so unique and so amazing. And the committee, for whatever reason, or not the committee, but the TV broadcasts just sort of robbed us of that and stuck an 11 o'clock label on that game, which I think is really ridiculous. So that's another thing I have beef with. And then that's really what I think are the main pros and the cons of this format in and of itself, of these 12 teams being in the playoffs. So now I'm going to pivot and I'm going to talk about some teams that didn't make the playoffs, what my thoughts are about them, and just sort of what I'm feeling about those programs at this current moment in time. The first team I need to talk about that didn't make the playoffs is a team that we just all completely forgot about. We all neglected, and I honestly have no clue as to why. And that is the Vanderbilt Commodores. Why is Vandy not in the playoffs? No one, not a single soul on this planet has told me, has even tried to attempt to tell me why Vanderbilt shouldn't be in. I just put Miami and Vanderbilt's resumes side by side for your viewing pleasure. These teams are both 10-2, and for whatever reason, everyone was talking about Miami, and Miami got the playoff spot. Miami is the number 10 team. Why on earth? How could they possibly have a better resume than Vanderbilt? I don't see why. I mean, first off, just look at the losses. Miami has lost to Louisville at home and on the road at Southern Methodist University. Vanderbilt, on the other hand, lost at Alabama and at Texas. Those are two way better losses. I will say Miami has the best win out of these two teams, or the win against Notre Dame early in the season, and that's great. But the rest of their wins, the rest of their ACC schedule, compared to Vanderbilt's SEC schedule, just absolutely obliterating Virginia Tech, crushing South Carolina. You might say to yourself, South Carolina's on a quality win. And I agree with you. But you know who South Carolina nearly beat? They nearly beat Alabama and A&M. And Vandy just said, yeah, we're not going to mess around. We're just going to smoke them. We're just going to beat them by 24 points, not even leave a trace of a doubt. So they did that. They also beat LSU. They beat Missouri. These, by the way, were top 15 teams at the time Vanderbilt played them. And partly because Vanderbilt beat LSU was part of the reason why LSU imploded and fired Brian Kelly. They also beat Missouri, effectively ending their season. And then they went on the road at Tennessee, 45-24 in Rocky Top. That is nuts. And I just think Vanderbilt clearly, in my opinion, clearly has the better resume than Miami. I frankly don't think it's very close. I mean, just look at Vanderbilt's last 7 games compared to Miami's last 7 games. It's not even close. I really don't get it. I have never understood it, and it still boggles me. And if you're saying to yourself, well, Miami just passes the eye test. They're just a better team. You know, they just have better players that have been playing better football. That is complete BS. Because Vanderbilt has put up over 500 yards of total offense their last 3 games. I could be wrong, but I don't think Miami has put up over 500 total yards of offense once. Vanderbilt also has potentially the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, who's been playing at the most consistent quarterback play that we've gotten all season long, maybe out of any quarterback in the league. You could say Julian Sain, you could say Fernando Mendoza, and I wouldn't completely disagree. But Diego Pavia is right up there with him. And I just think it's ridiculous. I really don't get it. And for Miami and for Notre Dame and for Alabama and for all these high-profile teams in college football, when you don't make the playoffs, if you get really close, like for Alabama, or let's take Notre Dame, for instance. Notre Dame almost made the playoffs. They didn't quite make it. Their thought process, first of all, is, dang, man, this is a real bummer. I'm frustrated. We should be in, but it's okay. Next year, we'll regroup. We're going to have a great recruiting class coming in. We have a lot of studs on this team that are going to come back. We have a great coach. We're going to be fine. That's not always the case for a team like Vanderbilt. I know that Vanderbilt really has been shoring up their long-term future by extending Clark Lee, and they flipped Jared Curtis, of course, from Georgia. That was big time, huge news in the college football world. But Vanderbilt is not going to have a 10-2 team every single season. They're not going to be in the hunt like this every year. In fact, this is the first time ever that Vanderbilt has won 10 games in a regular season. So it's not like Vanderbilt is just going to snap their fingers, have a great talented roster next year, and be right back in it. I mean, that very well might not be the case. And I don't know exactly what transfers they're going to get or who's going to stay or whatever. I'm not an expert on Vandy's 2026 roster. I'm just saying it's a real bummer that this historic Vanderbilt team, the best Vanderbilt team of all time, did not make the playoffs. And legitimately, I can't for the life of me decide why. The only reason, the only thought that I can have of why Miami is in over Vanderbilt is because of that U logo. It's because it's a bigger brand. It's because it might make more money. And because there would be more Miami fans mad about not making the playoffs than Vanderbilt fans. I mean, that is literally the only reason. I don't understand any single other one. So that being said, that's my number one beef with the college football playoffs, honestly, this year is Vanderbilt's exclusion from it. It makes no sense. The second team I wanted to talk about has dominated sort of the national conversation of teams not making the playoffs, and that is Notre Dame. Now, first of all, I wanted to say that I think a lot of people out there that think that Notre Dame shouldn't be in the playoffs, their first thing that they say is, Notre Dame, y'all have no right to be sad. Y'all have no right to feel any emotion about this. You shouldn't have been in the playoffs. And listen, I agree that Notre Dame shouldn't have been in the playoffs, but that doesn't mean they don't have a right to be sad. I mean, this was an awesome Notre Dame team, man. Jeremiah Love is one of the best running backs that we've seen in college football the last 2 decades. He's amazing. And he's not going to play in a Notre Dame uniform again. It is sad. If I was a big Notre Dame fan and I loved Notre Dame, I would have loved watching this team peak at the right time, play great football down the stretch, play their hearts out. And I would be really, really sad that I don't get to watch this team play anymore and that they're not going to be able to compete for a national championship. So if I was a Notre Dame fan, the first feeling that I would feel is sadness. Now, that's not what people want to hear about Notre Dame, though. They want to hear people's arguments for should they have been in or should they have been out. So I'm going to give that argument. First of all, and this is the case for Notre Dame, for Miami, for Alabama, for BYU. If any of those 4 teams had not made the playoffs, to me, I would have felt no pity towards any of them. Because at the end of the day, you could have not left it up to the committee at all. For example, let's just take BYU. If BYU had beaten Texas Tech once out of the 2 times they played them, they pretty much would have guaranteed have been in the playoffs. And yet they lost both times and put their fate into the hands of the committee. That's what Alabama did too. If they had beaten Georgia in the SEC championship game, they would be in, no doubt, just like that. But instead, Alabama got thumped. They put themselves in the hands of the committee instead of taking matters into their own hands and guaranteeing themselves a spot. So if the committee didn't put Alabama in, I would have said, well, you can either be mad at the committee or you can say, you know what? We lost. We had a chance. We had a chance to make the playoffs by winning a football game, and we lost the football game. And that is kind of what happened with Notre Dame also. If Notre Dame had simply beaten Texas A&M or beaten Miami early in the year, they would be 11-1. They would be in the playoffs. And yet things just didn't go the right way for them in both of those games at the very end, and they lost. But to me, the main reason why Notre Dame isn't in the playoffs isn't because the committee is stupid. It isn't because Miami fans are loud or Alabama fans or SEC bias. The main reason they didn't make the playoffs was because they lost to Texas A&M and they lost to Miami. So you can chat all you want. You can put every stat you want to put up on Notre Dame. But at the end of the day, if they had won either of those 2 games, they'd be in the playoffs. So to me, that's the main focal point, the main thing I'm focusing on if I'm Marcus Freeman. But with that being said, I agree with the decision not to have Notre Dame in the playoffs over Miami or over Alabama. First of all, I don't think they should have been in over Miami because Miami beat the Notre Dame Irish head-to-head. I think that makes the most sense. You can throw strength of record, strength of schedule, strength of resume. You can throw anything you want statistically onto the screen. And to me, all of that gets placed way under an actual head-to-head result, what actually happened on the field. You can theoreticize all you want. And yes, if Notre Dame played against Miami today, I would 100% pick Notre Dame to win the game, probably by 2 possessions. I think they're a better team. But you lost the game. Miami beat Notre Dame head-to-head. So to me, there was no realistic world whatsoever where Notre Dame should have been in over Miami. I think that makes no sense. Now concerning the Alabama Crimson Tide, I think Alabama's resume is more impressive than Notre Dame's. I mean, if you look at the teams that they've beaten, it's not even close. Alabama has wins at Georgia, against Vanderbilt, against Tennessee, against Missouri. They just have better wins than Notre Dame has. And that fact is not very close. I think most people are mad with Alabama that they didn't drop any spots after getting blown out against Georgia. My opinion on that is never has it ever been part of the criteria for making the playoffs. There's been so many things that have been part of the criteria. It's how we're gonna put the 12 best teams in the playoff. We're gonna put the 12 best resumes in the playoff. We're gonna consider strength of record, strength of schedule. Never has it been what your ranking was the week prior, or what your ranking was back in week 9. That should never be part of the equation, in my opinion. So yes, Alabama didn't drop, but to me, I'm not looking at what their ranking was last week. I'm looking at their resume and saying which resumes are better. That's how I'm determining playoff spots. So I think the committee really shot themselves in the foot by releasing weekly rankings leading up to the final one. To me, I am completely disregarding all the previous rankings. The only one that matters, the only one that should matter, is the very last one when all the data has been collected and we know everything that has happened. Every other ranking, it's like counting our chickens before they hatch. That's basically what it is. And to me, it's all pointless. So if I were in charge of the college football playoff rankings, I wouldn't do any of the ridiculous reveal shows. I wouldn't reveal any rankings. I would just wait till the very end and put out my final rankings of the final best teams once all the data has been collected. And that's what college basketball does. I mean, just look at college basketball. Their post-game or their postseason system is so perfect. And I know you can never have a similar postseason structure for basketball and football because they're completely different sports. I understand that. But there is a committee for college basketball too, and they have a way harder time of doing things because it's a 64-team tournament. I mean, college football just has a 12-team tournament. So there are teams that are going to get left out, and it happens. But the college basketball selection committee doesn't release weekly rankings leading up to the tournament because there's so much stuff that happens towards the very end of a college basketball season. And there's so many numbers and games and things that have to be calculated before the final rankings that it's pointless to release some earlier. And I think the same thing is true with college football. There is too much that has to happen in the last 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks of the season that it's ridiculous to have rankings come out at that point in time. Do you understand? Like, I don't know if y'all understand what I'm saying, but I think that just makes so much sense. Like, honestly, I don't care that there were 8 spots between Notre Dame and Miami back in week 10. To me, that doesn't matter. That was week 10. That's in the past. I'm not worried about the past. I'm worried about the present and the now rankings. So I don't care that Alabama didn't drop. What I care about is, did Alabama have a better resume than Notre Dame? And in my opinion, I think they did. Because you don't drop teams just for the sake of dropping them. Alabama doesn't lose and you're saying, oh, we're going to drop them 4. That's not how it works. You would drop a team below another team because you believe the team that is moving above them has a better resume. And to me, Alabama has a better resume than Miami and Notre Dame. So that's my opinion on Alabama. I will say about Notre Dame, I think they're highlighting a flawed system. In my opinion, Notre Dame is one of the 4 best teams in college football. If Notre Dame had made the playoffs, I would have said the 4 teams that I think realistically have a chance of winning the whole thing are Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, and Notre Dame. But given the fact that Notre Dame, I believe that Miami, Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, I believe none of those teams will win the national championship. I don't think they're going to have the balance on offense and defense to win a national championship. I think Notre Dame does, and yet we're sitting on our couches watching James Madison and Tulane be in the playoffs. I think that's ridiculous. I don't think it makes any sense, and I think that is highlighting a flawed system. I'll talk about the system in a minute. So those are my thoughts on Notre Dame. It's unfortunate. I know they elected not to play in a bowl game. I don't like that. I mean, if you look at 2023 Georgia, they missed the playoff, and their whole roster, it seems like, played in that bowl game against Florida State because they loved each other and they loved their team and they wanted to go out strong and prove a point, and they did. And that's what Alabama wanted to do last year against Michigan. They brought all their players into their bowl game, and they just were not a very good offense in that game and lost. But I think Notre Dame could have easily said, this is not how we want to go out. We don't want the ending of our team, the ending of our season to be getting rejected from the playoffs. We want the ending of our season to be a valiant effort in a bowl game. But they declined that. I think a lot of it was out of pride and frustration, but that's just the case. I love Notre Dame. I love their uniforms. I love their culture. I'm Catholic. I love Notre Dame. I think it's an awesome place. And I love the fact that they're not in a conference. I think that's phenomenal. But I don't think they should have been in the playoffs, and I think they messed up with not joining a bowl game. But they'll be back next year. CJ Carr's a great player. He's a great quarterback. Marcus Freeman's a great coach. They're going to be fine. I mean, that is the thing that's so great about sports is there is always next year, especially for a program as historically dominant as Notre Dame. We're going to move on to a different topic of conversation now. What about the G5? right? I mean, you heard me say earlier, it's ridiculous that Notre Dame isn't in the playoffs and James Madison and Tulane are. And a lot of people are debating this. Should the group of 5 be in the playoffs at all? If not, it would make more sense. We would get better matchups in the first round. And, I mean, we can realistically look at this. There is no way that a group of 5 team will ever win a national championship. It's not going to happen. James Madison and Tulane have had great seasons. They're great teams. They're coached really well. But you could simulate the playoffs 100 times, and 0 of those simulations would have James Madison or Tulane winning the whole thing. It's just not possible. They're competing for a title that they're not going to attain. I mean, that is just the blunt and honest truth. I love watching Group of 5 football. Maction is unbelievable on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. The American Conference title race this year was so cool. If you watched all my podcasts, the whole regular season, I talked about the American Conference so much. I thought it was so much fun. I love the Sun Belt. I love the Conference USA. I'm a big Kennesaw State fan. Shout out my cousin, Davis Harper. He's a pitcher there. But all that being said, it really is a different sport. I mean, the SEC and the Group of 5 are completely different sports. So to have them compete for the same trophy in football, it's just kind of ridiculous. I think it is. I think it's quite frankly ridiculous. But it's unfortunate because it's part of the great thing about college football is the mentality that anyone can win it. That Tulane, theoretically, if they had a good enough team, if they played good enough football, and any given Saturday, if they beat enough teams, they could win the national championship if they wanted to. But in my opinion, that's just not going to happen. And I think a lot of people have said, oh, if you made a Group of 5 playoffs, it wouldn't sell. I think a Group of 5 playoffs, put it on. You know how many TV executives out there, executives of Fox, CBS, NBC, Peacock, all of those like networks don't have any access to postseason college football. If you gave a Group of 5 playoffs to CBS or to Fox or to NBC, they would eat that up. And it would be watched by so many people. I would watch it. I would love to watch that. Imagine watching Tulane, North Texas, James Madison, Navy, Miami, Ohio, Western Michigan, all these teams play in a Group of 5 playoffs. It would be awesome. I don't know what the format would look like exactly or where they'd play. We would have to think all that out. But I think it'd be a lot of fun. But in my opinion, and you can bring up Boise State 2007 and their victory over Oklahoma. You can bring up as many, specific as you want. But I don't think Group of 5 teams should be competing for the same trophy that the SEC and the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the ACC are. I think it's just ridiculous. So that's my take on G5. I love G5 football. I love it. But never will a G5 team win a national championship. It's not going to happen. So I don't understand why they're competing for it. So here, before I talk about that, I think a lot of people right now with the college football playoffs are pointing out the flaws. They're saying, this is wrong. This is wrong. This team should have been in. This team shouldn't have been in. The system is messed up. And that they're all being so negative and they're focusing on all the bad things. Well, I think if you're pointing things out as wrong, it would also be very mature if you provided an alternative. If you said, this is how we should fix it. Otherwise, you're like that one annoying friend that is just declining all the options to go out to dinner and is not requesting one himself. It's like when you're in a group of 5 people and you're like, okay, where do we want to go eat? And you have the one guy that's saying, let's go eat Mexican or Chinese or Indian or whatever it is. And you have that one friend that's like, no, that's dumb. No, that's stupid. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Why are you suggesting what to bring up? Who gives you the authority to say that we should eat here, or there? That person is so annoying. After a certain amount of time, you look at him and you go, you pick. How about you decide where we want to go if you're so negative about all of our choices? So that's what I'm going to do. I think there are a lot of problems with this playoff format. I think it's very flawed. So here's how I would fix it. I would implement the 14-team automatic qualifier model. And I know it's very confusing. And I'm not the one that originally thought up this model. I don't know exactly who did, but whomever it was is a genius and clearly loves college football because I think this is very, very smart. So here, I'm going to explain it. Here's how the system would work. It would be a 14-team bracket, which is only 2 more teams than we have right now. It's not that big of a difference. And the spots would be divided up by conference. The SEC would get 4 teams. The Big Ten would get 4 teams. The Big 12 and the ACC would get 2 teams. there would be one group of 5 spot, just to make the group of 5 happy, and one at large, which is there for Notre Dame. But if for whatever reason, goodness gracious, Notre Dame has a really bad season and does not finish high enough to get that at large spot, then like the next SEC team or the next Big Ten team or Big 12 or ACC, like the next highest ranked team would make the playoffs. And you might be saying to yourself, Robert, you're shafting the Big 12 and the ACC. You're only giving them 2 spots, and you're giving the SEC and the Big 10 4. That's ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense. I am being generous. Giving the Big 12 and the ACC 2 spots is so generous. Because guess what? Last year, both these conferences got 1 spot. This year, both these conferences got 1 spot. The ACC damn near got only 1 or got 0. So I think this is very generous. And the SEC has 5 teams in the playoff this year. So I'm actually cutting back on the SEC. And I'm cutting back on the Big 10. And I'm giving more of an opportunity to the Big 12 and the ACC by doing that. And here's how it would work. You wouldn't just take the 4 best SEC teams and the 4 best Big 10 and the 2 best Big 12 and the 2 best ACC. On conference championship weekend, there would be play-in games to win your way into the playoff. In the SEC and the Big 10, it would look like this. The number 1 and the number 2 seed would play each other for the conference championship. And being a 14-team model, there are 2 byes. So the winner of the SEC championship and the Big 10 championship would both get the byes. So the conference championship, not only does it mean something for winning your conference, I mean, winning the SEC is a big deal. Winning the Big 10 is a big deal. So not only do you get to win your conference, but you also get a bye in the playoffs. So yes, conference championship games do mean something. And then with the rest of the conference, so for in the SEC and the Big 10, the 3 seed would host the 6 seed. And this isn't determined by a committee. It's determined by the numerical standings of the conference, which you can look up if you want to. So the 3 seed would host the 6 seed on a college campus. The 4 seed would host the 5 seed. And the winner of those games would make the playoffs, and the losers would be eliminated. Therefore, you have a chance to win yourself into the playoff and not just let the committee give it to you. That's what's at stake here. And it would be really cool. I mean, we would get these games, and I'm going to tell you what the games are in a little bit, but you would get really, really cool, really big-time games on conference championship weekend. I mean, who doesn't love more college football? And for the ACC and the Big 10, the number 1 seed would host the number 4 seed, and the number 2 seed would host the number 3 seed. And the winner would make the playoffs, and the loser would be eliminated. It's that simple. And in the group of 5, the 2 highest-ranked group of 5 champions would play it for the 1 group of 5 spot. So it would be Tulane versus James Madison. Winner would go to the college football playoffs. I think this makes a lot of sense, but it's hard to picture it. I know there's a lot of words out there. There's a lot of things I just said. So this is what it would look like this season. First of all, in the SEC, Alabama and Georgia, the 2 highest standings teams in the SEC, would play each other for the SEC championship game and for a bye in the first round of the playoffs. And then you would have the 3 seed, which would be Ole Miss, hosting the 6 seed Oklahoma. The winner of that game would make the playoffs. The loser would be eliminated. And you would have Vanderbilt playing at Texas A&M. Same thing applies. Those would be amazing games on college campuses that we would get to watch with so much at stake. And also, if you're in the SEC, this keeps the value of regular season games so high because you, A, want to win to get yourself into the top 2 so you have a guaranteed playoff spot. You also want to host a game. You want to get to 3 and 4 so you don't have to play on the road. And if you're Vanderbilt, for example, Vanderbilt and Tennessee, winner of that game, would have gotten a spot to play for the playoffs. So that game would have meant so much more. So this system is placing more of an emphasis on regular season games, meaning so much. And in the Big 10, we would get Indiana versus Ohio State. Same thing applies there. Winner gets a bye. Winner makes the playoffs. The loser also makes the playoffs. And we would get Iowa at Oregon and Michigan at USC with playoff spots on the line. And in the ACC, we would get Georgia Tech and Miami, or Georgia Tech and Virginia, Miami at Duke. In the Big 12, we would get Arizona at Tech, and we would get the Holy War with BYU at Utah. To me, this is just, and I guess in the group of 5, you get Tulane versus James Madison. But to me, this is the best way to go about deciding who makes the playoffs. Because first of all, it eliminates any need for a playoff committee. I mean, there's no committee deciding these games. This is just completely based on conference standings. So there is no arguing. There's no politicking. There is no we want to value this more than we value that. There's no playoff rankings reveal shows where you have to watch just brain dead arguments about who should be ranked over whom. There's no logo favoritism. It's all, are you going to win your game to make the playoffs? That's literally all it is. I mean, if you're A&M, for example, going up against Vandy, I just made a compelling argument for why I thought Vandy should be in the playoffs. Well, there is no argument more compelling for Vanderbilt than winning against A&M in this play-in game to make the playoffs. It literally takes everything out of the hands of politicking and trying to make decisions ourselves, and it puts everything into the hands of actual football games, which is I think it should be what is done. I think it would make a lot of sense. I don't think that there are very many flaws to this scenario. Basically, I think it just makes a lot of sense. I don't see what's wrong with it. The only reason why this would never happen and why I don't think it ever will happen is because of the greed of the SEC and the Big Ten. The SEC does not want to only have 4 teams in the playoff. I mean, the SEC has 5 teams this year. If they go with the model they want, they're going to get upwards to like 8 teams in the playoff every year. So the SEC is looking at, you're only giving us 4 spots? That's ridiculous. And the SEC, and same with the Big Ten. And both these conferences are the conferences that really, for the most part, control this sport. So they're never going to agree to this. But if they did agree to this, this would be such a fun way for college football to operate, in my opinion. I think it would be perfect. So this is my solution to the problem. I don't think it's ever going to happen. If it did happen, I would be over the moon about it. I think what is going to happen is a 5+11 model, which has been pitched and pushed by the SEC very heavily. Basically, it is the 5 highest ranked conference champions make the playoff, and then you have 11 at-large spots. And basically, that would just result in the SEC and the Big Ten dominating those 11 at-large spots and pushing the other conferences out of the playoffs. This would make things more balanced. It would make things just completely focused on games themselves. It would give us better football and more football. It keeps an emphasis on the regular season, which is the most important part of college football. And it adds a lot of strength and a lot of reason and impact to conference championship games, especially in the SEC and the Big Ten. And it would also just give us another amazing, like, imagine if we had all of these games, conference championship weekend, and all of them were essentially play-in games to make the playoffs. Like, this would be the best college football week of the season. I mean, I guess rivalry week would still be better, but this would be right up there with it. There'd be so many good games. It would be so amazing. I would love this so much. I think it makes so much sense. And if you have any questions about how this would work, or if you're confused, or if I didn't explain anything well enough, I guess leave a comment about it. I'm not that great at answering comments, to be honest, but I can try if you're really very curious, because I'm not always the best at explaining things. But this is what I would do. I think it makes a lot of sense, and this is what I would do. But we are not working on hypotheticals right now. We do not care about who should be in the playoffs, who shouldn't be in the playoffs. This is the playoff bracket. This is what we are dealing with. This is what I'm going to be talking about in the near future. I'm going to be breaking down matchups. I'll give my bracket, what I think is going to happen soon. And we're going to be talking about actual football, actual teams, and actually focusing on the sport that we love instead of politicking and debating who should or who shouldn't be in the playoffs, which I think is just exhausting. So I'm excited for when I get to start talking about this. This is the last time that I am going to talk about on this podcast who I think should or shouldn't be in the playoffs, because I am sick of it, to be completely honest. I just want to talk some ball. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching. And if you take one thing away from this video, it should not be that, Alabama deserved to be in the playoffs, or Vandy did, or Miami or Notre Dame did or didn't, or the AQ model is the best. That's not what I want y'all to take away from this. It is that our Savior is Jesus Christ, and that true fulfillment and happiness is found through him. And the Bible quote I have right now on the screen, Ephesians 6:16, is a great one. I have it written down over there. It's actually our Bible quote of the day here in this glorious apartment. It is, in all circumstances, hold faith as a shield to quench all the flaming arrows of the evil one. And notice it says, in all circumstances. Like, our faith is important to us in all moments of our life. I mean, there are so many moments throughout the day where we have the opportunity to choose God. And those are the most important moments, because God's love, it is just what fulfills us. I mean, we are not put on this earth to hate or to judge or to to sin. That's not the point of us being on earth. We are put on this planet to love, and especially to experience God's love, which is the most powerful thing ever. And if we take our shield of faith and deflect the constant arrows that the devil is shooting at us, then we will be fulfilled and we will be truly happy because we will accept God's love, which is really the point of us being on this planet. So with that, thanks again so much for watching. I hope you all have a great holiday season. I've got my Christmas tree up right now. And God bless. Have a great day. Have a great week. Have a great night. And I'll see y'all soon if you choose to come back and watch another video. So thanks so much for watching, and God bless.